Toronto. Our days in Toronto are coming to an end. Tomorrow we will fly to the USA. We have seen and experienced a lot in the 2 weeks. Ottawa, the capital city, where the bus transportation takes place on water to escape the traffic jam on the bridges above. The Niagara Falls, the boats with the tourists edges right up to the tumbling waters. And of course the unforgettable sailing trips on the Lake Ontario with Gabi and Rüdiger. After 40 years, I will meet with my cousin Edmund again in Missoula, Montana. Gabi will take us to the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning, take off 8 o'clock. We are stunned. The plane is completely overbooked. The earliest flight will be tomorrow. So the statement, "No, not so," was my absolutely retort to the manager of the airline. I booked a flight to Missoula. I paid for a flight to Missoula, and I want a flight to Missoula today and not tomorrow. Made it possible for us to get a flight via Denver, Colorado. After a 4-hour delay, the plane took off from Toronto. Shortly before midnight, we are landing in Missoula. The houses of Edmund and Kay stand on a hill 50 yards from each other with a beautiful panoramic view. The landscape is wonderful. Edmund says we live in and with nature. Directly under the window, a fawn in the tall grass, and it was not alone. Edmund tells us later, sometimes bears or puma might be sighted and have to be removed from the ranges. We had not met Kay before. She is warm-hearted, helpful, and she likes to laugh. Edmund shows us the surroundings. It seems strong to us to call a street or a leisure area Rattlesnake, but this for good reason. The St. Ignatius Church belongs to the community of the Indians from the Flathead Reservations. Interesting are 58 pictures inside the church. They were painted by Brother Joseph Catrinaccio, who had no education and was the cook of the monastery. We look around the outside of the church. In front of the university, art from scrap. With Edmund's friend Fred, I already had mail contact. He helped me with the planning of the trip.
No, not onion.
Stop.
Zitrone. Oh, Zitrone. Schon dabei.
Die Gelegenheit kriegt man nicht oft. Ne?
Nein.
After the church, Fred came by to bring some maps. A good opportunity to check my English.
Satz your mail.
Yeah. Then I schreibe aus in Chinese, yeah.
We have to go to Pep.
Pep, yeah.
Pep, yeah.
Pep,
The first many glacier hotel.
Yes, you are going to stay there.
Yeah, we have booked for 3 days.
Oh, for good.
For 3
Reservation.
nights.
You're safe. That's important, right?
Yeah.
Very important.
Fred and his wife Tommy want to hike with us in the afternoon at the Kootenai Creek trailhead. The trailhead is located about 27 miles south of Missoula. The Kootenai River flows through a narrow 18 miles long canyon. We follow the creek upwards. At the moment, the creek has a lot of melting water and is a mighty wild stream with many cascades and smaller waterfalls. You can tell that Edmund enjoys our visit and the hike. With 84 years, he is still quite fit. The canyon is bordered by towering granite rock walls. In the canyon there are climbing routes in all degrees of difficulty. The noise in the canyon is so powerful that a conversation is hardly possible. A fantastic wild nature. Again and again we stop and take on new impressions in. Flowering plants give the canyon color. The trail is rocky, it goes up and down permanently, but it is easy to go. After about 3 miles, we take a rest. Fred offers home-dried apple rings. He planted apple trees at his house. The relatively short summertime often is not long enough to harvest ripe fruit. After the rest, we return back on the same trail. The canyon is part of the Selway Bitterroot Wilderness, which is one of the largest wilderness areas in America, with total 1.4 million acres. For the group image, the camera is placed on a stump. Edmund has already gone further. We are grateful to Tommy and Fred for taking this great hike with us, so we get a real impression what to expect in the next days at the Glacier and Yellowstone National Park. The plant is about to spread its seed. Edmund surprises us. He went all the way with us, and his age of 84 years was not noticed. After about 3 hours of walking, we arrived at the parking lot again.
End of the walking, the end of the trail. The end of the trail.
On the way back, Fred stops at the Lolo Creek Steakhouse. The fresh air makes you hungry. A juicy steak finishes this wonderful hiking afternoon. Today we start the round trip to the Glacier and Yellowstone National Park. Edmund brings us very early to the airport, where we take over the rental car. The panorama by Bolton across the Flathead Lake is great. We continue on the right bank. Unfortunately, the panoramic road going to the sun is still blockaded. We continue on the US 2. At the Roosevelt Memorial, we stop. The 28-meter high obelisk was built in honor of President Theodore Roosevelt in 1931. We are at the entrance to the Glacier National Park. Fantastic, this beautiful landscape. The first mini glacier hotel in front of a picturesque backdrop. The hotel is only open from June until the beginning of August. We look forward to the first hike tomorrow to Iceberg Lake. A great surprise in the early morning. The weather has changed. It is raining and it is very cold. We can't make the Iceberg Lake hike in this weather. Alternatively, we decide to go the shorter way around this with Current Lake. A few steps from the hotels begins a wilderness in which humans do not intervene. The paths in the park are in excellent condition. One can see the splendid beauty of the landscape, despite the low-hanging clouds. We are in the field of grizzly bears. Everyone is responsible for its own safety. In Missoula, we bought special beer spray cans. The rain has subsided, and towards the afternoon, even a few specks of blue sky came through. The bottles you can handle elegantly. More than 1,130 species of plants are found in the park. Some of the plants are just blooming. We know only a few of them. The Indian paintbrush we know from our previous 5-week trip to the southwest of the USA. The lake is almost circumnavigated. The swift current leaves the lake here roaring. After about 5 hours of walking, we are back at the hotel. We are satisfied because, despite the initial rain, it was an impressive hike. The weather has changed again, blue sky, but a powerful wind is blowing. Very early, the rider groups broke up. Our hiking destinations today is the Grinnell Lake, where we rise to a plateau, and we walk back to the hotel on a higher pass in the mountains. Today in the sun, the mountains are super. We follow the swift current river uphill. It springs from the Grinnell Glacier, flows through the Grinnell Lake, Josephine Lake, and Swift Current Lake. Like a torrent, the water flows from the higher regions. The rain has made the ground soggy. A breathtaking nature. When humans do not interfere with nature, unique forest and plant communities emerge. Meanwhile, we reach the Josephine Lake. The trail leads over wooden planks. The subsoil is partly humid and moorish. The wooden plank should not be left for safety reasons. Outside the market trails, hiking is forbidden. We are alone in the wilderness. We don't meet other hikers. Of course, we are aware that we can always meet a grizzly or some other wild animal. The number of grizzlies in the park is estimated to be 400 to 500. The number of black bears is about 5 to 6 times higher. The swift current falling here several meters into the depth and became a powerful creek. A suspension bridge leads over the creek. Henriette goes ahead. The nature around us is outstanding. We are approaching the day destinations, the Grinnell Lake. At the bottom of the valley, the Grinnell Lake, framed by the massive Grinnell Glacier. The water of the lake is turquoise blue. Simply creates the landscape as painted for a postcard. The glacier has lost more than 75% of its ice mass over the past 2 decades. According to experts, There will be no more glaciers in the Glacier National Park in 2030. The park serves as a reference area for research in global warming. To the left of the lake, the pass ascends in serpentines to the plateau. The pass is partly still covered by snow massif. At the edges of the snowfields break up water flows to Grinnell Lake. The nature on the plateau is clearly different from the vegetation of the valley. After a few miles, we learn of an approaching hiker that the suspension bridge further up was carried away by the water massifs. We must turn back. Soon we will see the Grinnell Lake again. Also we go back the same way. Many things are new and different. The water is cold. At the lake we meet hikers. The park administration has reported a bear warning over radio. There are 2 grizzlies on our route. Caution is advised. A short break, it's meanwhile late afternoon. The noise of the small waterfall reaches far. We are back at the suspension bridge. In the park located toilets are housed, of course separated by sex. Soon we will back at Josephine Lake. If you want to save a few miles and have time, you can take the electric boat to the hotel. Poor nature, simple, great. What is the front and what is the back of this butterfly? The hotel is back inside. After about 8 hours, we arrive at the hotel. Today's hike was a dream. Before dinner, I shot some pictures of the panoramic view by sun and blue sky. The car is getting packed for the journey to Yellowstone National Park. About 500 miles are ahead of us. Montana is divided in 2 parts, the Rocky Mountains in the west and the prairie in the east to the horizon. Montana is slightly bigger than Germany, with 150,000 square miles, but has only 1 million inhabitants. What sparsely populated means we are experiencing now. Farmland and prairie as far as the eye can see and cattle herds. After a few hours, a church in the countryside. Certainly, it is central to the surrounding farms. It is late afternoon as we reach a typical little western town. A main street, saloon, store, and what is very important here, a gas station. Finally, the mountains of Yellowstone National Park. After about 8 hours by car, we reach West Yellowstone. We booked a studio for 3 nights. Very early in the morning, we start the day. One of the best known natural wonders of Earth awaits us. In front of the park entrance, the cars are dispatched in 4 rows. The distance in the park are very far. Without car, absolutely nothing. The axis is 65 miles from north to south and 55 miles from east to west. The average altitude is 8,000 feet above sea level. More than 10,000 hot springs, geysers and mud pots lie relatively close together. Unique is the Yellowstone also because of its wildlife, in particular bisons, grizzly bears and wolves. For the park, you need more time as we have planned. On 3 days, we only manage the southern part. We are progressing very slowly. The reason? Bison cows with their calves. Traffic stopped with animals on the road. A few miles further, we see steaming earth and on the grasslands, bisons. I remain calm and let the bisons come towards me. Henriette later complains to me that most fatal accidents happen in the park with bisons. The steaming mud belongs to the lower geyser basin. The thermal area is accessible via wooden planks. Leaving the pass is forbidden, but also not advisable. It is steaming, bubbling and hissing, as far as the eyes can see. Even you have read a lot about, you are speechless about it what you see. Without words, just great. Artworks as created by an artist. In the hot springs and geysers live different thermophilic bacteria and algae. They are responsible for the colors. The high soil temperature and the high sulfur content cause plants and trees to die. Mud geysers are also active in the lower basin. About 10 miles sideways of the lower geyser basin, the great fountain geyser is active. There are visitor benches that points to a special show. The geyser will soon break out. We are curious.
Also die Wolken gehen so, wenn du noch weiter liegst, bist du wahrscheinlich noch besser.
Wenn ich gehe,
Oh, this is what I was waiting for.
Really tall, it was way up there.
Ja, die Pfanne kannst du auch sicher lesen. So langsam wird es fast besser, oder?
wow, that's more than 50 meters.
Du musst danach.
From here you can also see the nearby White Dome geyser, which is more frequent but weaker. About 20 miles south, the next peak awaits us, the Biscuit Geyser Basin. Over the Firehole River, a bridge leads to the pools. The lower geyser basin was great, but this here is larger, more lively, and more powerful in the color spectrum. One geyser pool lies next to another, surrounded by mats of thermophilic organisms that shimmer in all the shades of the rainbow. You have to take time. Every time you look, you discover a new color variant. So many impressions all at once, you cannot process it so quickly. The individual pools can be reached via a wide roots network of wooden plants. A deceptive beauty. Under the area of the Yellowstone is a gigantic magma-filled supervolcano which can destroy the entire civilization around the Earth. Another highlight is the Black Sand Basin. A small stream passes through the basin. The cliff geyser is located right on the Iron Creek. The colored cliff formed by bacteria and deposits, it is unique. The bottom of the basin consists mainly of obsidian, which is black sand from molten volcanic glass, therefore the name black sand. Wapiti cows have a considerable size with about 5 feet shoulder high. Also, I am very close to her. She doesn't pay attention to me. The most famous geyser in Yellowstone is the Old Faithful. The tourist crowd is big. You can stay in the park. They even have their own clinic. There are grandstands built so that everyone has a good view of the geyser. The outlet of the geysers act like a narrow nozzle. The fountain is relatively narrow but high and powerful, with every eruption up to 8,500 gallons of water are ejected.
Weißt du, warum er Old Faithful heißt, Schatz?
Grandios, grandios. At Old Faithful, we finish today's tour. Short stop on a resting place. Beware of wild animals is necessary throughout the park. Forest fire in the park will be not competed, but only observed on uncontrolled spreadings. The West Sump Basin is located directly on Yellowstone Lake. The geysers spread to the lake. With only 9,800 feet or depth, the underground magma chamber is relatively close to the Earth's surface. Measurements have shown that magma current flow into the magma chamber and the subsurface in Yellowstone Lake has been raised 0.8 feet in a few years. Guck dir mal die gelben an. Haben wir die schon? Die ganz gelben? At the fishing bridge, the Yellowstone River leaves the lake. Here is a small museum. Rapids and cascades made the Yellowstone River very dangerous for the first settlers. The mud volcano has the most acidic mud volcans and FEMA rolls in the Yellowstone. Microorganisms convert hydrogen sulfide and water into an acid. Clay and rocks are dissolved and mixed into mud. The bubbles are caused by gas coming from deep gaps to the surface. We follow the upper circular route. Above the ground lies a stinking smell of rotten eggs. The sewer lake is extremely acidic. When you touching the water, it burns the skin immediately.
Das ist der Sour Lake, der saure See.
The source of the black dragon's cauldron migrate and change the location of the mud lake constantly. From here, one has a wide view over the territory of the mud volcano, especially beautiful when it is covered by a rainbow. From a safe distance, we see a grizzly bear with 2 cubs on the riverbanks of the Yellowstone River. It is quite late as we arrive at the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. From the viewpoints, we have an excellent view of the upper and lower waterfall. The Yellowstone River falls with a loud noise nearly 495 feet into the depth. It is really a pity that in the evening sun, the colors on the canyon walls do not appear effective. On the craggy peaks, bald eagles build their nest. The sun is already sinking as we leave Yellowstone. The evening conversations on the terrace with Edmund, Kay, and their friends Pamela and Rudy are unforgettable.
What have you eaten for dinner that you have so much power that you
Kay and her husband Stephen have founded in Missoula the Clark Fork City Church. Stephen died a few years ago from leukemia. The church has about 500 members. There is hardly a state social system in the USA. The churches take over some of these tasks. We are very impressed with what Kay and her husband have built up. Compared to the German private organizations, the Tafel, needy citizens are provided daily with food. Shops, market halls, bakers, butchers, and so on deliver their unsold goods to the church.
But this is city food.
Child and youth care is very important for the church. For example, we saw rooms where the children were supervised, a large hall where young people could make music, and a space where young people could creatively paint or photograph. The church room, Kay is still active for the church today. The Elk Foundation is a company for rearing, preserving, and protecting wild animals. In a small museum, the stuffed animals of North America are presented in their natural habitat.
Der hat 7 Spitzen zum Beispiel. Oh, I see a porcupine. Das müsst ihr euch ansehen.
Edmund knows the behavior of the animals quite well.
Dieses sind größer, etwas größer ist die Bär, aber nicht viel. Und die sind so aggressiv, dass sogar die Bären von ihnen die noch nicht viel Schwierigkeiten machen. Was die Schwierigkeit macht, ist ein Schwanz.
wenn er das schlägt. Und der schießt ja diese Dinger auf.
Einen
wollt fotografieren,
Ja.
lag sie sich auf meinen Fußsitz. Zack, geguckt und weg war es dann wieder.
die sind an Menschen gewöhnt in der Zwischenzeit.
Ja, natürlich, da kriegen sie auch was zu fressen.
Auch, ja. Obwohl man das nicht machen soll, glaube ich. Ja, ich meine, sogar ich denke daran, denn
Around the museum is a 22-hectare open-air area with a nature trail. Approximately 1 hour's drive by car north of Missoula is the National Bison Ranch. The reserve was mainly used for the rebreeding of bison, which was almost extinct. The ranch offers ideal habitats for all wild animals in North America. Wide prairies, wooded mountains, and wetlands along the stream. A one-way car gravel road runs through the ranch. It takes some luck to detect which animal shows up in your spread of view. Getting out or even hiking is absolutely forbidden.
Ziegen oder was?
View over the ranch and the Missoula Valley. 50,000 years ago, the basin was filled by a prehistoric glacier lake. Young bison very close to the car.
Sind aber auch ein paar Wackler drin.
Zu hören lassen. Wie mache ich das?
Ich komme rüber.
At the entrance to the ranch, there is a resting place. Kay gave us food.
Ja, eine Jacke darüber, das war alles. Und wenn du den Mann gesehen hättest, nur, hättest du gedacht, der Arme, wenn jemand den angerufen hat, dann hat er oder vielleicht hat er sein Geld auch durch Gold gemacht.
On the way back to Missoula, we can observe how deer have become used to traffic. Edmund goes today with us to the abandoned gold mining town Garnet in the mountain east of Missoula. The mountains around Missoula are rich in gold containing quartz and silver. Garnet is preserved today as a nature museum, which is supervised by the National Park Authority. We joined a group.
Yeah, we have a lot of horseflies up here.
At the time of the prosperity around 1900, the town had more than 1,000 inhabitants. There were hotels, many saloons, a school, and a church. What the inhabitants could not sell or turn into money, what was left is now historical and can be visited.
Und hier, doch, ich könnte auch die Rezeption, da war die Briefe für die Zimmer.
Ja, und das.
Any questions so far? For my town that didn't have a church, a band.
Zeitungen von 1920, 1930.
Even afford burial, so the Knights of Columbus down in Missoula, he would give needy miners money and loans if they needed it. There's a cabin we'll walk up here.
Garnet is a time story and gives an insight into the life of the gold prospectors and their families. The miners were primarily interested in the rapid growth of gold mining and less in building solid houses. The wooden hut slug foundations, they are small but could be easily heated during cold winter temperatures.
Me and weren't allowed to play in the town. There's a lot of mining implements. I think it's probably
Highest luxury, a 3-seat Thunderbeam. If the gold price continues to rise, it is not ruled out that the gold mines will be reactivated again. Time flies by and we are returning to Toronto tomorrow. Edmund's friend Dr. Bruce Wisehead invited us on the last day for lunch and a walk. The evening talks on the terrace were always interesting and funny. We had a lot of fun together.
He's not listening. And get beautiful at the shop.
Hast du dich Hermann?
Ja.
Wir haben dich gefragt, ob du das nicht morgen machen kannst, weil wir alle erst mal im Beauty Shop waren.
Okay, true beauty doesn't need any more preparations.
Ja, die Strahlen, siehst du, wie die hochgehen?
We have never experienced such a wonderful sunset.
I like how the... Muy bonita. Bonita. Much beautiful.
So many people now making photos of my gallery of the photos nearly gone. So
And it's the last one.
yes, I forgot.
Open it up and there they are.
Okay. And 3 days later, I make the films too private and nobody can
Yes.
look at
Yes.
it.
Very
We like
good. We like that a lot. Makes us happy.
Kay and Pamela prepare the dessert for the barbecue. Rudy is at the grill.
A pie picture. Come to take a pie picture.
Rudy, we're having a pie picture. Come in, Rudy. Want ice cream?
No, not
Ice
really.
cream, you scream.
Run up, baby, run.
Ice cream, ice cream.
Yes, I scream, you scream.
Die dazu setzt, dass in meine Richtung schmeißen soll. They have to throw it in my direction. Thank you. Dankeschön. Ihnen
Bitteschön.
sagen, you all have to say Dankeschön.
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 Bitteschön.
Wonderful.
Are we going back outside or no?
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Warm cakes and ice cream, that is simply delicious. The days in Missoula go to an end. Melancholy mixed into the farewell because we are aware that it may take years before we meet again. We felt very comfortable at Edmund, Kay, Pamela, Rudy, Tommy and Fred. We were a strong team. With Kay words, all was perfect. Thanks for everything and may you stay well.